Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Circle of Gold Plus. Why compete and what's in it for me? Brought to you by the BLT Advanced Club. BLT, of course, standing for Division B's leading team. Is also sponsored by our leaders at Division B. I'd like to thank them for their support in this. Why compete and what's in it for me is tonight's first session. Tonight we're going to talk about just an introduction to the Circle of Gold Plus, that should say, not gold, but hey, twice as much gold is better than no gold at all, right? After that, we're going to have a panel discussion featuring our own Laurel Wingert. We'll have a break. Then after the break, I wasn't able to get Lance Miller here in person, but we do have a video from him, and he has given us permission to use the video for Toastmaster purposes. For anyone who does not know, he is the 2005 winner of the World Championship of Public Speaking. And about 3 years ago, he came to our conference in Medicine Hat and inspired a lot of people, me being one of them. But we will watch his video on his opinion on what it takes to build an award-winning speech. We'll have some discussion. Then after that, it will be a what's next for Circle of Gold Plus and a wrap-up. Is there any questions regarding this so far? Oh, just FYI, we will end by 9 o'clock. Okay. Many of you may have heard of Circle of Gold. Circle of Gold has been a staple in District 42, and I know for sure in Division B for many years now. It is, as we say here, a peer mentoring group, and you can read what's on the screen here. I'm just going to give you a visual of what Circle of Gold has been like for us. It's where people who want to compete in the area, division, or district conferences, where they get into a room, stand up in front of a panel of other competitors and people who have been Toastmasters, may or may not be competing, and they get feedback. They don't necessarily get evaluated. Evaluated is, of course, giving all the positives, a couple areas for improvement, and then if you're using the sandwich method, some more positive. With Circle of Gold, it's definitely feedback on how they can specifically improve this speech based on the suggestions of those in the room. More information of this can be found at d42tm.org, Circle of Gold. There are Circle of Gold coordinators in every division this year, and our very own Laura Chambers is the District 42 Circle of Gold coordinator. So we're very lucky to have her here tonight in our very first inaugural Circle of Gold Plus. Circle of Gold Plus. You're going to hear that a lot this year. This started with me and Marg Ustupski sitting on her deck this summer. It was a very hot day, and we had lemonade in hand, talking about what is going to happen in the Toastmaster year. She mentioned Circle of Gold and contests. And then the conversation moved to who competes. And I don't know about all the other divisions, but we certainly do have a staple of competitors every year. And we were talking about how can we get newer people to compete. And I shared my experience at the Wascana Club. At the very first time I was encouraged to compete, I was, kind of uncomfortable talking in front of people. And I was encouraged to compete at the club level. And all you have to do is, if you win at the club, you go to area and do the same speech. Oh, and if you win there, and on and on and on. Honestly, I had no idea, first of all, the amount that I could learn from competing, how much I was going to grow and how my skills were going to develop. But also, I really didn't know how to compete. Nobody told me. They said, here, Just get up and talk. And that led Marg and I to discuss doing something beyond just the circle of gold where you sit in a room and watch people. Let's teach them how to be competitors. Let's try to encourage new people by teaching them and encouraging them right from the starting gate. I was at one club when I was area director, and I went to the one meeting before a contest, and the president said, hey, Jack, hey, are you doing anything next Tuesday? You want to go do a speech at the area contest? So there's all those different levels. So the goal here is to have a Circle of Gold Plus to start bringing in new speakers and new competitors. The Circle of Gold Plus will be workshop-based, as you're going to see tonight. In our first meeting tonight, we're going to have one workshop at the beginning, which is going to be a panel discussion, and then following that, as I said, Lance Miller. But in the future, we're going to have subject matter experts, people who are experienced in competing, and maybe somebody's more experienced at gestures, somebody vocal variety, for example. And they are going to do a presentation in the first part of our session. And then after that, well, we're going to take what we've learned in the first part of the meeting, plus what we have built on from the previous sessions. We're going to work on the speeches that we've been developing and getting feedback. This does not mean we're not going to have the regular Circle of Golds as well. When we get closer to area and division contests, yes, we are going to have those nights where we get around with some coffee and some people and still do our regular Circle of Golds. This is just an enhancement. Also, this Circle of Gold Plus isn't just for competitors. I truly believe that anybody that comes to the Circle of Gold Plus is going to gain some knowledge, some skills from this, and we'll get into that in a moment. So really, it's for any Toastmasters at all levels. Anybody who comes to the Circle of Gold Plus is going to get three things. They're going to get help if they are competing. They're going to get information, that little extra bit of knowledge that they may not have got at, let's say, a club meeting. It's going to be at a more advanced, it's going to be, yes, a more advanced skill. For example, such as the skills that you would gain by going to an advanced club, you're going to get those tidbits in the Circle of Gold Plus. And, of course, you're going to get new skills. Even the most advanced speakers don't have all the skills. None of us are perfect. Everyone has to grow. The only way to grow is to share knowledge amongst the people who have done it before and through the wisdom and the fresh eyes of people who've never done it at all. We all have something to bring to the table. Circle of Gold Plus, as I mentioned, is two parts. The first part is the practical. That's the mini workshop. And we're going to have a variety of topics. For any of you who are familiar with the Competent Communicator book, they always say the first 6 speeches in the CC manual are the essentials to building a speech. And I believe that. So we're going to take a lot of that. And again, we're going to have these mini workshops on an advanced level. So it's not going to be necessarily say what you're going to say it and say what you said. We're going to add some salt and pepper to that meal and help people to build their speeches. Then we're going to have a break, followed by the practice. And as I said before, we're going to practice what you have based on what we've learned today and in the previous Circle of Gold Plus sessions. Excuse me. Which brings us to tonight. First of all, are there any questions regarding what I just went through? I can't see everybody, so I'm going to just turn my participants on. If you have anything, raise your hand.
There's nothing in the chat window right now, Lynette.
Thank you very much for that, Laura. So that's the Circle of Gold Plus in a nutshell, and here is our inaugural Circle of Gold Plus event. Why compete? What's in it for me? Tonight, we are so fortunate to have a group of 5 people joining us. Our Circle of Gold will be a panel discussion brought to you by past Division Director Laurel Wingert. Laurel has also competed most recently in the humorous speech contest and the international speech contest, where she came first at division level. She is then going to introduce the panel of guests that she has brought with her. And again, after that, we're going to watch the video and then have discussion from Lance Miller. Please help me welcome Laurel Wingert, Distinguished Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lynette. I am so happy to be here today with my 4 dignitaries that are joining me. Before I introduce them, I just want to go through how tonight is going to work. We have 4 special guests joining us that will be answering some questions. I'm going to give them a few general questions that they can answer so you can get to know them. And then I'm hoping if you have specific questions or if you have any desires, please put in the chat window and we will try to get to all your questions and we can ask them. If it's a specific person you want to answer, please put their name first so we know who's going to ask it. I've asked the panelists not to speak for any more than 2 minutes. We do not have a timer today. That's because all our panelists are distinguished Toastmasters, and I would hope, and this means you too, you know who Mr. Toastmaster Edge. DTM today means Distinguished Toastmaster, and please keep your answers to under 2 minutes so we can get to as many questions as we can so the audience will understand why we compete. My guests today are Kanak Kari. She's a DTM, as I've said. She was District 42's International Speech Contest winner this past June in 2020. Yay, Kanak. We also have Laura Chambers. She's also a DTM, and she won the District Humorous Contest last June in 2020 and the year before. We have 2 Division B alumni here today. We have Kevin Safanuk. Kevin Safanuk won Table Topics in the district level in 2015. He's also competed at the district level in all 4 areas of the competition. And if you don't know what those are, that's humorous, international, table topics, and evaluation. We also have Randall Edge, DTM. He's also competed at the district level in all 4 contests. Both very qualified people. And let me tell you before we go into this, just because they're DTMs, that's not why they're competing. You can be a competitor whether you have letters behind your name or not. I'm going to start with Kanak with a very, very basic question. Kanak, please tell us what club you belong to and how long you've been in Toastmasters. Kanak, we can't hear you, honey.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kanak Kare, like Laurel said. I belong to 3 clubs. I started with Literally Speaking as my home club, and then I went to Spoken Word, and then I became a coach and became a member of the Live Ad Live clubs. And I've been in Calgary for 7 years, but I've been member of Toastmasters since 1997. I've been that long, from Prince George, BC.
1997. Let's not do the math. Laura, could you tell us a little bit about the clubs you're in and how long you've been in Toastmasters?
I joined Toastmasters in 1988, and in fact, I'm proud to say I was a founding member of Bedstone Olympics. I was an active member for many years, and finally my work sort of got in the way, and I took about 6 years off before I came back, and boy did I miss it. These days my home club is Inspired Toastmasters, and I'm also a member of CATS.
Thank you, Laura. Now let's move on to Kevin Safanuk. Can you answer the same question, please?
Sure. I started in Toastmasters in about 2000. And so it's been almost 20 years now. And my current club is the Wild Oats Club in Regina.
Thank you. And Mr. Edge.
Thank you, Laura. I've been involved in Toastmasters since 1984. I have competed in districts 21, 42, and 60. In terms of my home club, that is Word Masters, and I'm also a member of Big Country. Trying to keep to my time limit.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Now, one of the questions that a lot of people ask is, well, I'm not a DTM, I haven't been in Toastmasters very long, why can I compete? Can I compete? I want to ask these same competitors how long they've been in Toastmasters, well, how long were they in Toastmasters before they competed, and what really made you compete that first time? And let's just go backwards on our screen. We'll start with Mr. Edge this time.
Thank you very much. My first brush with competition was actually one of my best. I was 3 months a Toastmaster in a newly chartered club. We were exempted from the rules as a result, and no one in my club wanted to compete. And I said, well, I'll give it a shot in the humorous category, and I reflect on the speech I did, and it took me all the way to district. I really was astonished being 3 months into Toastmasters and sitting before an audience of literally 600 in Edmonton in the humorous speech contest. It was quite an experience.
Thanks. 3 months. I didn't want to compete till I'd been in almost 3 years, or maybe 2, but a long time. Let's move on to Kevin. Kevin, you got a story?
No, I'll just say that I have a complete opposite of what Randall did. I competed actually within about 4 or 5 months of joining in one of the table topics, and I crashed and burned so bad that it was a great learning experience is the best way I can put it.
But you went back. How long did it take before you went back?
The next contest.
Good for you. Now, Laura, I would like to know how long you were in Toastmasters before you competed and what motivated you to compete.
I wasn't a Toastmaster for very long. I mean, we're talking a very long time ago. I joined in '88, and I think it was the spring of '90 that I went to Saskatoon to district and competed and won in evaluation. But before that even, this is back when the Table Topics contest was still there. Oh my God, that's the best contest. And I competed in that within a few months of starting. What motivated me? The mentors that started the Bedstone Olympic Club. I'm not sure if we have anyone that's been around long enough to remember Avner Pearl, Mary Nowakowski. Oh, they were the most amazing people, and they somehow persuaded me I had what it took. And I think it was one of the proudest moments of my life when I realized I could do it. I maybe didn't win, but I could do it.
You're right. We all can do this, can't we? Okay, Kanak, I would like to hear about how long you were in before you competed and what motivated you.
Well, Madam Chair, I started working on it, started giving speeches. I remember I went up to a level in the area. I came third. International speech contest, I remember in Quesnel, BC. And that was my first contest, really. I went up to there. So that was, I still remember that thrill in me, right? I drove hour and a half to Quesnel and gave that speech, shopping in India type of thing. And then I wrote a speech on my skiing. And that one, I won 2005 humorous speech contest. I won district championship. So yeah, and then I was in British Columbia. At that time, BC was also one district, one whole thing, just like Alberta was here. And then I went in 2008 international speech contest. I won that one district contest, and I went to semifinals in Seattle. But that time I didn't know that you have to have ready a speech to go compete again. All of a sudden I won, and I had to prepare another speech. So I wish I knew, like, you know, you have to prepare now these days, you have to have 2 speeches ready. I wish I did. It was a good speech, but I could have polished way more to get to it. But that's how I went. And then I came here, and I kept going on in the contest. I went to divisions, and I went up to district. But I became district champion this time, but I went up to district and division a couple of times. I won. So I just kept going for fun of it, writing my stories and talking about it, and the thrill of it. Yes.
So I just want to add to your question here a little bit, because you won international this year. That way you got to compete at region. What was that experience like?
See, I didn't have to compete at region. My video went. See?
Okay.
So my video went and they chose.
So was it nerve-wracking waiting to find out if you could have won?
No. Oh yeah, I thought we kept waiting. Of course you keep waiting. And then, you know, just then after that, I heard the guy speaking, the one, and the lady still I haven't heard it. So Russ Dantu was sending me notes. He said, I like your speech more. I mean, you get more favorite, right? than the other ones, but that's okay. But that was still thrilling for me to go. But I did have to wait, yes. I kept looking, trying to figure it out where the name comes. And it didn't come. Okay, now I can relax and go play golf.
Yeah.
I didn't have to worry. Yeah.
So for you folks on the phone, I just wanted to bring the attention that most of these panelists started when they were brand new Toastmasters. And I noticed at the district level and international, one of the winners there that got right up into the finalists, and I believe, hopefully I'm not wrong in this, but she had only been a Toastmaster a very short time as well. So it can be done.
Can be done, yes.
I'm going to go to the chat window now because I was given a question here, and this just fits in with the theme of things. I want to ask each of you, what motivated you to compete if you are fluent to speak and not become a professional speaker? Why compete, not a professional speaker is the answer. And let's start kind of in the middle. Let's start with Mr. Safana.
So I'm far from a professional speaker, and I have never desired to be one. So what made me want to compete? It was just to improve. Every time I went on stage, it was either a bigger audience, I was trying to learn a new skill. At the club level, you learn lots with your peers, but at the contest level, you can learn so much more with a bigger audience, with a bigger group, and you just have to be willing to do your best. And if you fail, it's not really a failure, it's a learning curve, because I learned lots through my failures, more so than just by winning.
Thanks. Miss Chambers. Why compete? Why not be a professional speaker?
That's 2 separate questions. I compete, honest to God, I compete because it's the only thing in my life that I am actually competitive about. I want to win. I don't get upset when I don't win, and I am the first to say when somebody has kicked my butt. But I have found that I do have a competitive streak, and I love entertaining people. What can I say? You know, it's now a professional speaker. I turned 64 last month. That means that if all goes well, I should be able to retire next year. But I just got in the mail the other day a statement from Canada Revenue telling me what my check is going to be every month when I retire. It was devastating. I'm beginning to think I need a side gig for retirement, and I'm actually thinking about trying to be a professional humorous speaker. Maybe never reach the heights of Gene Robertson or some of the others, but YouTube, make a few bucks, go kill them at the old folks' home. And that was a bad choice of words. I'm sorry.
Let's move on to Randall, because I think Randall might want to add to that comment a little bit about why compete, why not professional? and say something about YouTube to give you some motivation, Laura. Randall, your turn.
Thank you so much. I've actually made the transition in an interesting way. Of course, I still compete from time to time, but I've gone through the back door and I've become a marriage commissioner, which is where I'm constantly put in front of audiences and I get paid to do this. And that has also mushroomed into being asked in many situations, being the master of ceremonies, which again is a paid opportunity. So, I mean, I've made that transition quietly, but now, of course, I have a new hobby, which is not a hobby. I'm becoming quite interested in it, and that is making and producing my own podcasts, which I'm doing with great pleasure with my own YouTube channel, and that has the strong potential over time to become monetized as well.
There you go. So Canuck, we know that you're a great speech winner. You won at the international level. Have you ever thought about professional speaking? Why the difference?
Well, I never thought of professional ever, because I used to just do my school days. In my school, that time we didn't have any television or too much general knowledge. So my professor used to write me speeches. 6 o'clock in the morning, I used to go to him. He'll help me write it. And I used to compete. I used to love being drama, debates, and music, and speeches. So I just came here and I started doing, and I didn't know the Toastmasters. I was here, I came in 1964, and 1997, my daughter, who is an engineer here in Calgary, she came and told me, Mom, there's a Toastmaster club, go join it. So that's how I found out. I put my 3 daughters in debate clubs because I didn't know about Toastmasters. But it's really, I don't think I want to be a professional speaker because it's my hobby. I love to travel, I love to visit, and I love to do things. But if I ever become professional, and I am way older than Laura, 20 years ahead of it. You're lots of years ahead of it. So I don't have that much time. And my dream is to become a world champion. Before my husband died, I told him that. So let's see if that dream comes up or even close to it. So I'm just enjoying whatever I'm doing. That's all there is to it. Thank you.
Well, Canuck, you are a world champion in my eyes and in all of District 42 for what you accomplished this year for us.
Thank you.
I want to remind the people that are listening in, if you have questions, please put them in the chat window. We'll try to answer it. And the person whose question that was, if you could just, if we didn't answer your questions, please let us know. All right. I would like to know from these contestants if they even remember how many times they competed and what contests and how far they got. So let's let them give you a little bit of a resume on their contest experiences. And let's start with Laura this time.
No, I couldn't tell you. Honestly, I could not give you a number. I know that I've gone to district in every category except international. That's my goal this year. I've won the humorous twice. I won evaluations many years ago. Tall Tales, for all the years that they held that here in Calgary, every single year I was either first or second, first or second, first or second. But I couldn't put a number on the number of times I've competed. It would be impossible. It's countless.
Countless. Which one was your favorite? Which one is your favorite to compete in? I can see you being very good at Tall Tales, and I've seen you at Humorous. What's your favorite, Laura?
Tall Tales. Honestly, when the rumor came up that they were thinking of exchanging that for Humorous, my vote was a resounding yes. Because in my mind, Tall Tales is like Humorous on steroids. And let's face it, how many times in our lives are we asked to make up the biggest whopper our minds can conceive of?
I might be able to take you on that one.
Oh,
I'm pretty creative.
we can twist wrists, Laurel.
All right. So let's move on to Mr. Safanuk. Can you answer the question? Do you remember how many times you've competed and what contests and your favorite and how far you got?
So I saw the question when you sent them to me, and I tried counting. I went down into my vault and try counting there. And tell you the truth, I can't remember. I think I made it to District 9, 8, 10 times, but I really can't be sure. And at the area club, district, the division level, I just have no idea how many. Which is my favorite contest? I have two. I like table topics. I always like speaking off the cuff about stuff I have no clue about. And I also like humorous. I like telling stories, and I was actually looking forward to Tall Tales too, to see if I could manage those. They sounded kind of cool, and I know some of my stories are pretty tall, so either one of those would have been cool. So that's about it for me.
And how about you, Canuck? Do you remember? Your sound is off again. Oh, or your sound, maybe the administrator could unmute.
Yes. Yeah, no,
there we
no,
go.
Unmuted. Yes.
That's okay.
It is also unlimited. I don't know. I've got my binders full of certificates. I kept going on and on. But here in Calgary, I also competed a few times in Calgary. Every year, practically, I competed. Division champion, competed in Regina in division for humorous.
Yes.
And then I went to Calgary a few times up to division. 2019, I came second in international in Moose Jaw. But I love humorous also, but I couldn't do it. Last year I tried to do both and I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep up both so I think this year I said, okay, concentrate on one. Maybe just for fun of it, I might do humorous again, just for the sake of it. But numerous times I went in the contest. And I mean, in India, lots of times I went. I was even chosen once. One experience I had, that one time they call it extempore debate, just like table topics. I said, I'm not going to go in it. And I didn't make up my mind. I didn't go. So my friend, she said, I'm not going either. But then when I'm going in a rickshaw to university, she said, well, I went and I decided I'm going to do it. I said, you did, and you didn't tell me. I go back home and I tell my teacher, and I told him, give me the opposite points of her speech to me, and I'm going to go do it. And I went there and I spoke and I won. And I was allowed to go to all India competition. But that time, my head of the department was little old thinking minded. He said, well, the boys are going there, the girls are going there, and I didn't get to go. So I still feel sorry. I shouldn't have listened to him, and I should have gone. My parents never stopped me. I was lucky. My parents said, do whatever you want. In drama, debate, I was in drama, acting, big trophies we won. Singing competition, dancing competition. I used to do a lot of that. So I love it. So, but here, a lot of speeches I did. I have quite a few of them and competed quite a few times. And learned to polish it, 2006 winner. What's her name? She was a Chinese lady. She came to Prince George in 2008 or 2006. She came to Prince George as a guest speaker. She said, once you win it, one level, then you go, if you win your club, then you go to all the clubs. When you win division, then you go to all the clubs in town. You just keep practicing your speech. And that's where I heard. And I went to every club to practice in Prince George. And they will change my one word here, one word there. And I loved what I did. I never felt ever upset or annoyed about any evaluation. I just kept taking their opinions and used it whatever suited me. That's how it was. So it's kind of really exciting to meet people and get their evaluation. Oh, my coaches do get mad. You change too much. But I guess that's the way it is. I love it. Thank
Good.
you.
That is, and we're going to get back to that practicing too, and we're going to get the other three contestants to talk about practicing. But before that, I'm going to talk to our analytical Randall Edge, and I bet you he knows exactly the number of contests he's competed in.
Too many. But what I will share with you that I have a bit of a different perspective because I've competed in districts 21, 42, and 60. And what has really struck me from that experience is the winning speeches at the district level are radically different in each of those three districts. In District 21, it's all about motivational, inspirational speeches. In District 42, the winning speeches are the heart tug type of speeches. I don't know why, but that's been the personality of the district since my involvement since in the 80s. And in 60, which is Ontario, they're into dinner theater. People dress up in costumes. It's unbelievable, the difference. And if I had to pick one of the three, I found District 60. I was the Northern Division contestant. I found that one to be the most enjoyable in the international speech category. So, I mean, if I had a favorite, it is the international category. I'm a little bit of a different duck because you can do anything you want. I like taking pieces from the humorous competition, putting it into the speech, but that, of course, in District 42, is not a heart-tugging speech, and you can't win with it. But it still doesn't stop me from being, that's what I want to do.
Thanks. And how much practice do you put in when you're in contest season? Randall?
In practice, a ridiculous amount. I never stop. I've had people laughing at me because I'll be practicing in the parking lot. I do it again and do it again and I do it again and I do it again. It is a lot of practice. I like getting into the stage way before the competition, early in the morning, at 5 o'clock in the morning when no one else is around, getting on the stage, walking the stage, getting to know the room, feeling the room. That's, to me, all part of the preparations. I want to find out what the doors, the squeaks are in the stage floor, if there's hot spots with the microphones and the speakers in the ceiling. I need to know all that going into the competition because these are parts of the condition of competition, and it's all about what happens in the moment of the competition. And so I work really hard to be prepared for that.
Kevin, do you have anything to add about practicing and what some other tips and tricks about practicing?
So I have to tell people, being an accountant, I'm very inanimated. I don't move my hands, my heart, and my body. So when I get into a speech mode, I basically have to train each one of my body parts to move how I want it to do. And I don't know, I think one of my first speeches, I sat down and timed every time. I spent over 100 hours on my body and language. Every time I drove in my car, I would be doing 3 or 4 sentences of my speeches and just repeat those 3 or 4 sentences over and over again until I thought I had them right. Rewrites of that speech was probably somewhere around 60 different rewrites as I went places and I hated pieces. And so that's probably anal to most people and probably overkill for those guys who probably actually win. But that's how I had to do it because, again, I don't move my arm. I don't have any natural body movement. So to get that animation, I really have to fake it well.
How about you, Laura, for tips for practicing?
My biggest obstacle has always been the timing. I apparently am very wordy. I keep a pad of paper on almost every surface in my house. I have one on the kitchen table, the dining, the counter, my coffee table, beside my bed. And if a better word comes to me, I write it. I've been known to get out of bed at night to make a note because something came to me. I put a lot of time into practicing, and as you're going up, maybe not as much at club level because you know your club members, and maybe not a little bit more at area, but by the time you get to division, you have to be really polished. And the only way to be polished is to rehearse, 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 rehearse. And if you have the means to capture it on video so that you can watch yourself, As painful as that is, I recommend doing it.
Thank you very much. We have a question from the audience, and it is, what are the most significant skills or techniques a speech winner should possess? And how can a competitor come up to that position? How do you get to there? Does any one of you have an answer for that? Would you like to speak up? Laura, go ahead.
Tenacity. Plain and simple, tenacity. Yes, you need skills, and for some people it comes more naturally than others. Some people have to work on it a little harder than other people do. But we've all been versed in speech writing. We all know what the judge's form looks like. We should be referring to that. We know that we need a hook for an opening. We know we need a solid conclusion, a call to action, and everything in the middle is up to you. Tenacity. You have to keep trying. You just have to keep trying.
That is really good advice. But let someone else on the panel answer this other question. When writing a speech for a contest, what techniques do you use to overcome writer's block when you can't think of an idea of where you want to go? Who would like to answer that question? Hands up. Oh, we got Randall. You can go ahead, Randall. Maybe and Canuck can weigh in after
That's okay.
too.
That's okay. Go ahead, Randall.
I actually see speech writing as a bit of a mechanical process. And I go through 8 steps. And usually it starts with an idea. It could be anything. It could be, and one example was I was driving on the road and there was this billboard about stress. And, you know, I was feeling a lot of stress that day and I was fighting with my keys. And then I realized, you know, stress could be related to the number of keys I have in my keychain. What a great idea. And so that was the start of it. That was step 1. Step 2, just started writing a lot of ideas and doing research and pulling out of books, getting quotes, all kinds of you know, quotations from other individuals, jokes, and then you start to coalesce that into the 3rd draft, which is really an opening, a body, conclusion. And then you start shaking it out, and the more you work on it, the easier it flows. And I go through about 8 versions, one of which is timed, one of which is, can I actually say the words I wrote down, because the way we speak and the way we write are 2 different things. So for myself, it's a mechanical process. You just work through the steps and you come out with the finished product at the end.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything they want to add to that before I go into the next audience question? Kevin.
So I have to admit, I'm a bit different than Randall, is that I write more stories. So I'll write my story out kind just as it comes off the top of my head. And then again, every time I go through, I will edit and change it. And then I will try and make sure that everything begins tying to what I want to talk about. So a lot of times I go off on a little gopher hole or something. I begin cutting those off until everything begins tying to the thing. And then I try and tie the senses of what people have back into my story. So it's not just telling the words, it's sight, sound, smell, and the different aspects.
I have actually an excellent question for you, Canuck. You have got your name all over this next question from our audience. And I want you to answer it because as the international speech winner, and maybe we'll get Laura to weigh in on this one as well, we had a new format that year. So what advice do you have for speakers to do it on Zoom rather than on a stage? Canuck, and I really want you to answer this because I'm as a person that is probably not as technical as a lot of our younger folks are, the millennials, myself included, I had to learn a whole new concept. And I just want you to answer this question because I think you're a good person to answer that.
Wow. On Zoom, my desktop kept moving from one room to the other room to the kitchen, then it goes there, then it goes there, then it goes there. Everywhere it was going. I'm glad I kept really good senile. I stayed. Oh my God, it was exciting, but very frustrating also. I didn't know if I'm doing it right. And It's just some friends in town, they were helping me every step. And all the people who were telling us to do the sound and the voice, how do I look, what the light is. Only my kitchen worked, nowhere else. And then now, so for Zoom, you have to have a right camera and right thing and right lighting. You don't need that much space. That's one thing I noticed. Not much space. People have big room. There's no time to move that much. Some people did, I saw in the videos, and I was seeing in competition, they have really plain background. So now I got in this room with this gadget. So I'll see how that works. I'll have to figure it out when I go in next competition. If I have to put a curtain behind or this plain wall is enough. But it was hours and hours and hours of work. So don't get frustrated and start early and work on it. I'm glad everybody's already on it, so they're learning it. But it was very hard to figure out where to look, what to do, how to move, where my hand goes. You know, where Nepal was, in the Himalayas, whatever, you know, just how do you show. Everything was pinpointed and told by people. It was a lot of, I mean, I only have, I don't know, 2 pages double spaced, and that's all I speak. 2.5 pages, double spaced, because I do a lot of pauses. So that's important. Zoom is hard, but once we got the technique to it, you're set, no problem. So keep asking and get help as much as you can. That's my commission.
Laura, you also competed this time on Zoom and you came to the top. So what techniques do you have for people to learn this new online process that we're all a little afraid of?
Well, and I was really afraid of technology. People that know me know that I was dragged kicking and screaming into Zoom.
Yeah.
But I found that I love it. It comes down to having a decent webcam that's got a decent microphone on it, and my lighting. This is the first time I'm using it, actually. I just bought a halo light, and it makes quite a bit of difference in it. There's not as much glare on my glasses, and I think my face is lit up better. But I think one of the key decisions that each of us needs to make now is, does our speech work better standing up, or is it maybe better to have it sitting down? When I did my humorous speech, we were the last and only club to get it done at Area. So I went through club and Area in person. But then we got moved over to Zoom, and my speech was about using wrinkle cream. And sitting down allowed me to act as if I was sitting in front of my makeup mirror and get right up close to the camera. So there are some real benefits, true benefits to this platform for anybody that is willing to work through the technical snags and do all the testing and that sort of thing. I think Zoom, we are developing new skills. Every time we sit down to a meeting on Zoom, we are developing new skills. And competing on Zoom allows us to decide if we want to stand or sit. And some speeches just simply work better sitting down. My thought.
Thank you. And for everyone who listened to all of that, let me give you a little sneak peek. We actually have someone coming in on our next meeting on the 30th. It's going to even give you more tips and tricks on using the Zoom platform. We will head down into our wind-up questions here. And what I would like to know from each and every one of you is, what would you say to a new Toastmaster to encourage them to compete? And what was your biggest takeaway you learned from competing? So let's start with, Laura, you go ahead and start.
Well, I would probably tell somebody that competing is probably the most fun you'll ever have with your clothes on. Really. I see it as being a fun learning experience. And what competition has taught me, you would had to have known me in 1987 to fully understand what I'm about to say. But I used to be the shyest, most introverted person you ever met. You couldn't get a word out of me because I was afraid I might make a fool of myself. Toastmasters changed that for me. And competing took it one step farther for me. It taught me more about myself, my abilities, my skills, and my determination, my tenacity, than anything I've ever done anywhere else in life. So I would say to people, give it a shot. You know what? If it's not for you, you're going to know right away. If it is for you, you're going to love that heart-pounding feeling that you, when you're done and you walk off the stage.
Thank you. Don't we all want to go out and compete now? Mr. Edge, what would you tell someone as a new Toastmaster to encourage them to compete? And talk about, too, what you learned from competing.
Being in competition is a process where you really have to work on all the little details, and you work on them in a very compact period of time. You grow immensely from the process. Entering a competition is almost like getting 10 speeches done in a row in fast succession. For myself, and what's interesting about this point is it wasn't until I had been in competition for an extensive period of time. I competed nearly 8 years. And then it was in Lethbridge that, for whatever reason, a light bulb went on. And I echoed the comments that Laura just made, where I wasn't aggressive, but for the very first time, I was assertive. I was assertive of my rights as a competitor. I had been subjected to other competitors' actions in the past. I had gone along with them meek and mildly, but a switch turned on, and I was assertive. I'll tell a very quick story. I know time is of the essence, but in this story, I went to see the stage in Lethbridge, and it was clearly set up by someone that has never been involved in competition. I was unhappy with it. I thought it was ridiculous. Because they had turned a multi-use room into really other uses being of more importance. And I complained to the contest chair, no, we can't change it. I complained to the chief judge, no, we can't change it. And then we had a contestants briefing, and I stood up and I questioned everyone again. No, we can't change it. The conditions of the competition cannot be changed, cannot be changed. And then once everyone left, all the other competitors came up to me, what are you talking about? I said, well, come and take a look at where they're going to have us do the competitions. Off we went, and everyone agreed with my assessment. And to my astonishment, all the other competitors rebuilt the stage. It was so hilarious. And that was the way the competition ran. And it became, and this is a new part of my personality. I've never been at times so focused on asserting my rights when I need to. And I got that from competing in Toastmasters.
Thank you. Now let's move on to Mr. Sapanak.
So what I would tell somebody new who's trying to compete, I would say, go for it, be yourself, listen to your advisors, but still be yourself. We all have to give a speech the style and manner that makes us comfortable. The other part, what did I learn? That was the second half of your question, wasn't it, Laura?
Yeah. Yes.
No, every time I compete, I learn something new. I learn it from watching the other competitors. I learn it from watching myself and by what I'm doing. Just constant practice, learning. And every time I compete, I get a little bit better, and someday I might even be good enough to make it somewhere. But I enjoy competing from the learning aspect, and I would say that is the best learning place in Toastmasters. If it's at any level, you learn a little bit more.
Thanks. I'm going to wrap up this Q&A panel session with Canuck with some words of wisdom on what she would tell new Toastmasters and what was her biggest takeaway from competing.
Go challenge yourself. Learn to feel. Learn to feel how to be nervous, how to have a blank mind. All these things you learn by competing, and you become humble because people are evaluating you. The word evaluation is very good, but it's really, you could say it's a criticism, right? But you don't use that word. So take it and learn to take it and accept it and change it. So you only can do when you go in competitions. You cannot do in a club level just by giving speeches. They can give evaluations, but nobody will pinpoint each action, each motion of yours, each word of yours. That's what changes in the competition. So just go for it. Take the challenge. You have nothing to lose. Oh, you didn't win, so what, right? That's fine. But I mean, I write 20 pages and by the time it becomes 2 pages, by the time you give speeches. So just learn to concise, you learn to hear, you learn to connect with people, you really learn to listen. What they're telling me, that word is not good, how should I say it? But if that word, I felt it was perfect, I will keep it. Then I'll ask somebody else, was that right? So I talk to everybody and I ask them, did you like that word? Yes, I do. One will say no. Then I have to make my decision. So these things, you stay humble, you learn to be evaluated. That is the right thing you can only do when you go in contest. So just go do it. And really makes a difference. It does make a difference, a lot of difference, how you give speeches. Go for it. Take your challenge.
There you go. You've heard from the panelists. I hope everyone will consider competing. There was one last question in the chat window, and I'd encourage our panelists to go in, and if they could answer it, go ahead. It's talking about one of the international speech winners, Mike Carr, and what they thought of his speech. But meanwhile, I'm going to do something new and different and crazy on Zoom. I would like everybody to unmute themselves and give these 4 panelists a round of applause. Unmute yourself, please.
Yay.
Yay. I really want to thank you all for you 4 folks for joining us today and imparting your wisdom on us. Thank you for being part of our panel, and good luck in your future competitions and in your public speaking, if that's what you plan to do, over professional speaking or maybe YouTubing. Good luck, and I will send the floor back to Lynette, your host for the evening. Thank you.
There's one more thing I want to tell.
Okay.
Yes,
One more thing. Whatever you learned in Toastmasters, I am even helping my family and friends how to speak, how to watch ums and ahs, and how to tell stories. One daughter is a politician, one is a vice president, one is a music speakers. So they are all speakers. So your connection goes to your family and friends. So go for it, people. Compete, learn the technique, enjoy yourself.
Thank you very much for that, Kanak. I saw something else in the chat that said nobody mentioned it was fun. Now, I'm also a competitor, and I haven't got up to the district level yet, but one day I'm after all of you. And I have had so much fun. And I don't want to underestimate that. It is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that we were going to have some people coming in late earlier, so I didn't do any introductions, and I'm obviously not going to introduce everybody, but there's a few people that I'd like to draw some attention to and thank for coming out. First of all, as we heard from Laurel Wingard and her team tonight, Laura Chambers, Kanak Kare, Randall Edge, and Kevin Safnak. Give them a round of applause. I'd also like to for Marvin Henry to please introduce himself as the Chief Judge this year.
Thank you, Lynette, for introducing me. Yes, on the 19th, I will be going over some judging and chief judging tips. Actually, I'm going to go over the perspective of chief judge, how the chief judge prepare and plan for the contest. It's on the 19th. Saya is going over how do you prepare for a contest as a contest chair, and Harvey is going to talk about any technical tips on Zoom. So I have a lot of slides, and I'm going to talk mostly about what the chief judge needs to know and what the chief judge should do for the contest. And Saya will do that for the contest chair, and any tips for technical stuff, Harvey will cover. And that's 11:30 to 1:30 on Saturday.
Thank you very much. And I think you register on the D42 site, right, Marvin?
That's correct.
Great. Okay. I hope a lot of people attend that. We also have our administration manager, Camille Gibney, here, and B9 area director, Dan Lonechild, who's been helping out with the tech this evening. My name is Lynette Zotzman, and I am the Division B Circle of Gold coordinator. Thank you all for coming. I'm now going to call a 5-minute break while we do some change, and I want you to get up, stretch, do a little dance, sing a little song, have fun tonight. Oh, wait, I'm showing my age. So please get up, stretch for 5 minutes. I'll ask our timer, Mark Gustowski, if you could please let me know when 5 minutes is up, and we will get going with the Lance Miller video. Thank you very much.
When something is very close to your own experience, and that's how the passion comes up. See, it has to be a personal experience, not somebody else's. You have to know, you have to be part of that story. And then you can put passion, you can feel the sadness, you can feel the happiness. But if I'm telling somebody else's story, I may not be able to feel the same feeling. So like when my husband was dying, how he was telling me, I can feel the passion. How I moved to the country and I felt the passion. How I was scared, so it's just the feeling. It's your own personal stories. That's why it is good to tell your personal stories in the speeches, because you can put your passion in it. You experienced it, you felt it, and that's what the reason I think that's what it is.
Thank you very much for that, Kanak. And yeah, I think that if somebody has passion, that it exudes when they're doing their speech.
Right.
I'm going to ask some other people as well. Lance talked about grabbing the audience's attention. I don't know if you saw, but he threw a ball to grab attention. Can you think of any ways that one might grab attention from the audience in their speech without throwing a ball at their head?
When you are asking somebody?
Yeah, I'll ask anybody. You guys can turn your videos on if you want, if you don't mind being on record.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I guess you can get the attention just by a vocal variety or a hand motion or just I think it's from how you say it. How you say it and especially a line, a very important line that you can get attention. Like, how they say opening or ending is the statement. And that's where you can get the attention. Exactly what you. Have you ever been on Zoom? That's it. And then okay, no, I've never been. So you have to get the attention by asking a question or telling your own feelings. That's the way I think. And let me think a little more.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Kanak. Mark, I know you have done a lot of competitive speaking as well. In the last one that I heard you do, you kept humor in your speech. How did you keep the audience's attention with humor?
I think it has to be something that appeals to the audience. It has to be a common experience we've all had. Whether it's just a really funny incident that happens, you exaggerate it a little bit, but it's something that we all have in common. And the thing we all have to do is learn how to laugh at ourselves. So if you can tap into that, you have a successful humorous speech.
Is there any, and I'm calling this out to everybody, do you have any tips or tricks on how to come up with a speech idea? And I'm going to remind you that we're talking about passion. Laurel.
Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Be aware of everything that's going on around you. Everything can be a speech. If something triggers you and you look down and you see this pen, it might remind you of some kind of time where you can build a story around it. So all I can say is, especially with humor, there's funny things going around all the time. Remember them, write them down. I heard Laura say that she keeps papers all over, and that works well with topics as well. Always keep something beside you so you can write it down. Here's an idea, here's where I want to go, and write these things down. Just be aware of your surroundings and write it down, and you'll come up with anything.
Thank you for that. Reminds me of a meeting we had with Valerie Erickson on whatever day that was, Laurel. And I'll tell everybody here, she said, we asked a similar question. She says, I come up with ideas from everything. Just think of a time when maybe you went swimming at night. And right away, I thought of a time I went swimming at night, but it's probably not for public speaking. But catch me after a night out and I might share it with you. So even 2 words that she said, nighttime swimming, brought back a rush of memories. Is there anybody else who can give us tips on finding ideas for upcoming speech topics? I'll remind you, we have the humorous and humorous coming up, table topics. Somebody else will come up with our topic for that. But for both the humorous and the international, how do you come up with ideas, more ideas? Mark.
I also heard somebody say, don't be afraid to steal with honor. And you don't steal the whole speech, but you might hear a speech that triggers an idea that will make you develop a speech of your own. So I did a speech several years ago, and it was on skiing, learning how to ski when I was 50 years old. Never been on skis, knew nothing about them. I've also heard somebody else do a speech on skiing. Different take, different story, but it might have brought back, as you say, that memory for the other person, and they went, oh, that's a great idea. I never thought about talking about skiing or fishing. We've all had an experience in life. It's just looking at those experiences, twisting them a little bit and exaggerating them.
Yeah, I did my ski speech. That's what my winning speech was, first one, on my ski hill the first day. How I came with the boot and that, yeah. I still have another part of that speech. I have to do the other
probably
part.
just as many speeches can come from a ski hill as can come from nighttime swimming.
Yes.
I'm going to stretch things out a little bit here. I'd like to hear from some people that we haven't heard much from tonight. We're going to start by using the reactions button. Down the bottom of your screen, there's a little thing that says reactions and a little smiley face with a plus. I want you to raise your hand if you have not competed in any contest before. So right now I'm seeing that everybody has competed, which tells me we either have people who can't find the reactions thing or we have some fibbers. Laura's got a heart and Bev's got laugh, but we got nobody who's got a hand up. Okay, I'm just going to go with a guess that maybe we do have some people who have not competed before, or maybe have only competed once or twice. If you have not competed, or you're thinking about it, or know a friend, you can be asking for a friend too, we'll allow that. Why? Why have you chosen to not compete? Or why has your friend chosen to not compete? I'm going to call on, let's see, Lorna. You've competed before, because I've competed against you, and I think you beat me once. How often do you compete, Lorna?
Only when I absolutely have my arm twisted.
So you're one of those where we go, we need somebody to represent us. Please, Lorna, you're doing nothing, and I'll buy you a coffee.
That's about it, yes.
Yeah, I still owe you that coffee.
Yeah.
So, Lorna, why don't you volunteer on your own?
Because I'm not competitive. I did not join Toastmasters to learn to speak publicly. And I have always downplayed the value of contests and competing. Kevin gave me a real pep talk. Him and I rode in the car for about 24 hours together one time. And so he got to, and now I'm know that I'm going to be mentoring people who would appreciate the experience. And so I joined this Circle of Gold to learn more about the values in competing, and as well as the fact that I know my evaluation skills have eroded. And so I'm hoping to learn over these weeks more about improving my evaluation skills.
Yeah,
and it's possible that I might stop avoiding contests, but yeah, that's to be seen.
Lorna, you bring up a very good point. It's not just about the competing, but the evaluation skills too, and that's part of the Circle of Gold, because even those people, well, all those people who are competing and who are coming to Circle of Gold need people to provide feedback. And for the record, we need new people to come and give us feedback, because the judges range from veterans who've been here for 612 years, give or take a couple, down to people who've maybe done their first 6 speeches. And we need that feedback from all ranges. Lenore Defoe, I'm going to call on you because you seem like you're still awake.
Definitely awake.
Are you a competitor?
I was in Toastmasters. I just recently rejoined, but I was in Toastmasters in 2004, and I competed once, and I stood up and got 2 sentences into my speech and forgot everything. So I have a little bit of performance anxiety.
I did that too. And I can understand where you're coming from. But I had Brad Corbo's in the room here, and he was the one who pushed me onto the stage. I was in the back. I had the pressure like you have, performance anxiety, and Brad was miking me up, and I said, oh my God, I forgot the words. And he's like, "Yay, your turn, get out there." And I got out, and I did what's called the art of BS. I'll let you guys figure out what BS is. And, well, I learned something from it. So, yeah, even for anyone here who says, well, when I get on the stage, I'm going to forget everything. Yeah, you might. Lenore did. I did. And guess what? Hey, Lenore, has it changed your life dramatically?
No, except that I don't do speeches in public like that anymore.
But
I'm just starting again.
And you still got a house to live in. And
Yes.
you're still looking good. And it hasn't killed you. So
No.
we can only grow from that. Why
It
are some
wasn't
other...
the worst experience either because my Toastmasters group was so supportive. It was wonderful.
Absolutely. Oh, gosh, yeah. Did anyone throw tomatoes at you? No. You know the price of tomatoes? Of course they're not going to throw it at you. Okay. Let's see here. I see we have Deb here. I think I know which Deb it is. Why do you think some people may choose to not compete? It is the Deb I thought it was.
It is me.
It is you. I know you've
is me.
competed, but why do you think some don't compete?
I think the reason some people don't compete is, and it actually goes back to what Dan Clark said at the opening ceremonies. He was the keynote at the opening ceremonies at the convention. Is the reason some people may not compete is not because they're afraid of speaking in public, but because they're afraid of not speaking well in public. Contests like table topics where you do not have a chance to do a prepared speech scare some people because they don't know what the topic is going to be. They don't know what they're going to be speaking about. And that might be a reason. Oh, I need to turn this the other way. I do this off my iPad. It's always just such a bloody pain in the neck. So
It's okay. We're just getting seasick.
People don't compete is fear of not speaking well, or just basic insecurity. How much time do I need to put into this, and how's it going to go? And nerve-wracking when you're competing. And I've competed a fair amount. When I started chairing the contest, I actually found that it was more fun to chair the contest than to compete because then you get to watch everybody else squirm. But when you're competing, the nerves are that much more intense, especially if you go up through the levels from area to division and to district. And the higher you go, the tougher it gets, and the audience gets bigger, and it gets harder, and your nerves really settle in. So that could be a deterrent too.
Yeah, okay. I see your point there. Thanks for sharing that, Deb. Natasha, tell me about your experience in competing, or if you have, like, what's your experience?
My experience?
Yeah.
My experience, so I do actually keep track of how often I competed. So I did 18 speech contests between 2006 and 2010, back when I was part of the Not Just Us Double Jumpers Club at Canada Life, and I made it to division level twice where I didn't even place, hence the nerves, right? Crowd is bigger, competition is fiercer. As part of FCC, I competed 5 times, twice at club level, made it to area, and then, oh, what's her name? Beat me in both. I see her face, but I can't remember her name, and she was so good. And then last year I competed in the humor speech contest. Yeah, Connie beat me at area level twice. Last year I competed in the humor speech contest at the club level, and that was where I discovered that I actually wasn't funny. I thought I was funny, but it was flatter than a pancake. I got no reaction at all from the audience. I completely blew it. And so that was interesting, but I'm a big proponent of the speech contests. I completely believe in them 125%. It's always good to go out there and try, whether you do well or not. The thing that's interesting about the contest is that it is subjective. And even though there is a judge's form with criteria that's on there, it is subjective. And there are times where you think you did really well and the results didn't reflect that. And there's times where you really weren't sure if you did good or not, and yet you were placed quite well. It's always an interesting experience. It's not black and white or cut and dry by any means.
Thank you for sharing that, Deb. Thank you. Natasha, same question to you.
Lynette, she did not suck at humor. She was actually very, very good. it was a small audience. Bigger audience,
Well,
it would have.
absolutely. No, I think I was there. We always laugh at Deb. I mean, no, Deb, you did well. But I want to go back to Natasha here. Natasha, I want to hear your experience.
Thank you for the question. Our club, actually, I'm part of ATCO Structures, and we have a corporate club, and our club is relatively new. And for us, it's really around the lack of knowledge and other distractions, I think, that prevents us from maybe participating. So, you know, I'm relatively new to Toastmasters, maybe a year and a half now, and I've been the secretary and now have moved into the president role, but I'm trying to learn more about it so I can educate other people as well. So for us, it's really that lack of knowledge and ability to, I guess, share with people all the benefits that would come out of something like this. So we're kind of taking the first steps towards that education piece right now.
Great, and hi to your buddy there.
Yeah. It's bedtime.
We have lots of buddies show up. It's fine.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So how do you think, Natasha, how do you think we can encourage more newer Toastmasters to compete?
Maybe have guest speakers come into the clubs and like share some of the upcoming events, or we as the presidents can do that, or like have somebody come in and share that knowledge and like encouragement as part of a speech, like consistently through certain districts maybe, or clubs that are a bit younger would be one idea.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. Does anyone else have any questions about the competing or the process? I'm going to call on somebody who I know is a new Toastmaster. And if you don't want to speak, that's fine. Michael, you knew I was going to call on you. Mike, and I realize you're new, but now that you've heard all this, what do you think of the competition and the competition process, specifically for newer Toastmasters?
Well, I feel that if you've got support from the more seasoned Toastmasters, and when you do make a mistake, if they just encourage you like you did, like you helped me the other day, and it made me a lot more confident, then people will obviously gain that confidence and want to obviously compete. But if you have a terrible experience in the beginning, I'm sure it's going to take a while to build up from there if you don't have that support.
Thank you very much for that. And bang on. I would never have competed outside the club level if it wasn't for the encouragement that I received from Brad Corbo and other members of the Wascana Club, specifically Brad Corbo. See, he came in first at Wascana, I came in second, and he chose to compete with his other club, Wild Oats, which by default, I'm a winner. See? Are there any other questions about competing? Yes, Daisy.
Is there a requirement for a new Toastmaster participate the contest? I know in the past there was like the CC manual, you have to complete the 6 project.
Mm-hmm. I believe you have to have level 2. I'm going to check with our Chief Judge Marvin. I thought he was here, but he seems to have stepped out. Laurel, do you know?
I do know the answer. So to compete in any contest, evaluation, table topics, or humorous, you don't have to have anything. You can just compete. But for the international, you have to have level 1 and level 2 of pathways.
Okay.
So yeah, Daisy, you could compete in table topics. You can even do a humorous. That's a 5 to 7 minute speech. That would give you some experience speaking at competition. And the evaluation. Mark Gustowski?
I'm just going to add to that. You actually have to be a member in good standing in a club in good standing. So your club has to have at least 8 members, and your treasurer must have submitted your dues.
Does that answer your question, Daisy?
Yes, that's good. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. That kind of wraps up tonight's session. I want to preview or give a little promo out to our next Circle of Gold Plus event. That is on September 30th, and we will be honored to have in our presence Valerie Erickson. Valerie won the International Speech Competition last year in 2019, and I believe she came in second this year. I know Kanak Kare came in first. Valerie is going to talk about gestures and body language when speaking on Zoom. This is a new platform. Our stage used to be 12 by 8. Now it is the size of this window. Our evaluations, or excuse me, our gestures and everything we do has changed dramatically. I strongly encourage everyone to come and listen to the first part with Valerie Erickson. The second part of the Circle of Gold that night, I'm going to ask each of you to bring in a speech that maybe you're working on or something that you have done. And we're going to talk about the gestures in it. We may talk about some of the things we talked about tonight. But I want you to pick a speech and kind of be able to apply some of what Valerie has to say. Try to incorporate some of that. And then the following week, we're also going to go back over the speeches. You don't have to pick one speech that you're going to carry through. But let's just start working on something. Let's take some of these ideas, put them on paper, put them in your computer. It all starts with an idea. Are there any questions? Kanak, did you have a question?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Oh, you're good. Of course you're good. Any other questions?
Lorna would like to share.
Pardon me, Laura? Lorna wants to share. Lorna, you're allowed to share. I want to hear from Lorna.
I'll be leaving now. Is that okay?
Of course it is, Kanak.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you,
Okay, bye-bye, and thank you for coming. Lorna says to everyone, Toastmasters was the first time she was ever in a contest that the other competitors were helping each other. Not only is competing a unique experience in Toastmasters, it provides a unique experience to the world. And I think that's a great message to leave with.
Yeah.
So again, I would like to thank everyone tonight, Laurel Wingert, Kanak Kare, Laura Chambers, Kevin Safnak, Randall Edge, Dan Lonechild for helping out on tech, and everyone's patience for what we went through with that video. My apologies, but it's a learning experience for everybody. Again, thank you very much. I'll see you on September 30th. Stay gold, everybody.